They say money can't buy happiness, but let's be honest. Not having it can quietly take away your peace, your time, and even your sense of control. Think about it. How many decisions in your life have been made, not because you wanted to, but because you had to, because of money, or rather, the lack of it? Most people believe poverty or financial struggle comes down to circumstance, bad luck, unfair systems, or not being born into the right family. And while all of that can play a role, there's something deeper, something invisible, your mindset. Not the motivational kind you see on social media, not think positive or manifest it. I mean, the quiet, subtle patterns of thought that run your life when you're not paying attention. Because what if the biggest obstacle between you and wealth isn't the world, but your own mind? Let's strip this down. Money isn't just about math. Most people believe poverty or financial struggle comes down to circumstance, bad luck, unfair systems, or not being born into the right family. And while all of that can play a role, there's something deeper, something invisible, your mindset. Not the motivational kind you see on social media, not think positive or manifest it. I mean, the quiet, subtle patterns of thought that run your life when you're not paying attention. Because what if the biggest obstacle between you and wealth isn't the world, but your own mind? Let's strip this down. Money isn't just about math. If it were, every accountant would be rich. It's not purely about intelligence either, because there are people with PhDs living paycheck to paycheck, and others with no degree building empires. Money is emotional, it's psychological, it's deeply tied to how you see yourself and how you see the world. We learn about money not from school, but from the people who raised us, from what they said, and even more, from what they didn't say. If you grew up hearing phrases like, money doesn't grow on trees, we can't afford that, rich people are greedy, those words didn't just pass through your ears, they built walls in your mind. So when you become an adult, you might find yourself repeating the same cycle, working hard, saving a little, always just getting by, never realizing that what's holding you back isn't a lack of effort. It's a belief system. Let's look at the 5 traps that keep people stuck, no matter how hard they work. 1. The scarcity loop. Imagine growing up in a world where enough never seems to exist. Enough time, enough safety, enough money. That mindset teaches you to grab whatever's in front of you, to survive the moment, but never to plan for the long term. And so, you save pennies, but never invest. You hold on to what little you have, afraid to lose it, not realizing that fear itself is what keeps it small. Scarcity doesn't just affect your wallet, it shapes your entire worldview. You start making every decision from the question, what if I run out? What if I can't pay the bills? What if I lose my job? What if I fail? Those questions become your invisible cage, and when your life revolves around fear of loss, you rarely create anything new. Here's a small example. A man named David grew up in a home where every dollar mattered. As an adult, he finally made good money, but he still refused to spend on anything that wasn't essential. He lived in constant anxiety about his savings disappearing. He didn't invest, didn't travel, didn't take opportunities that might have multiplied his income, because his brain was wired to preserve, not expand. He wasn't poor anymore, but his mindset still was. That's the thing. Scarcity isn't about how much you have, it's about how much you believe you can lose. To break that loop, you have to ask a radical question. What would I do if I trusted there was enough? Enough time to learn, enough money to make mistakes, enough room in the world for me to succeed without taking from anyone else. Abundance starts with permission, permission to believe in more. 2. The someday illusion. Someday I'll start investing. Someday I'll start that business. Someday I'll change my life. But someday is a ghost. It never arrives. You see, someday gives the brain a false sense of comfort. It lets you feel responsible without taking responsibility. It whispers, "You're not lazy, you're just waiting for the right time," but the right time never comes. Ask anyone who's ever achieved something meaningful. They'll tell you, it always started messy. They began before they were ready. They failed, adjusted, and failed again. Meanwhile, these someday thinkers keep planning, preparing, researching, and watching others move ahead. Here's the paradox. The longer you wait to start, the harder it becomes to believe you can. Inaction erodes confidence. One small step today, even something symbolic, carries more power than 1,000 perfect plans for later. If you ever catch yourself saying, "I'll start when things calm down," stop and realize life never really calms down. It just changes shape. The wealthy, the creators, the risk takers, they act while it's messy. That's their secret. So don't aim for perfect timing. Aim for motion, because motion creates momentum, and momentum rewires belief. Someday is an illusion, and illusions can't build your future. 3. The identity trap. This one runs deep. Your brain wants to protect the story it believes about who you are. If you believe you're bad with money, you'll act in ways that confirm it. If you see yourself as a struggling artist, you'll subconsciously reject anything that challenges that identity. Because changing your identity, even for the better, feels like death to the old self. You might want success, but part of you fears what that would mean. What if your friends see you differently? What if your family judges you? What if you lose your sense of belonging? So you stay the same, safe, familiar, limited. But here's something powerful to remember. You don't have to believe in the new identity fully to start acting like it. Action rewires identity faster than belief does. You become what you repeatedly prove to yourself you can be. So, start small. Make a financial decision the old you wouldn't make. Read a book about investing, even if you don't understand half of it yet. Say no to something impulsive. Say yes to something strategic. Every choice is a vote for the kind of person you want to become, and over time, those votes stack up until the identity you once doubted becomes second nature. The poor mindset says, "This is just who I am." The wealthy mindset asks, "Who am I becoming?" 4. The consumer's lie. We live in a culture of noise where you're constantly told you're missing something. A new phone, a new car, a new pair of shoes. Every ad whispers the same message. You're incomplete until you buy this. And without realizing it, people trade freedom for appearances. They spend money to feel worthy, to look successful before they actually are. But the problem is, the feeling doesn't last. That dopamine hit fades in hours. Then you need the next one. This is how the system keeps you working endlessly, feeding it while calling it normal life. The wealthy break this loop by seeing money as a tool, not a trophy. They spend on things that grow, assets, skills, systems, freedom, not just on symbols. It doesn't mean you can't enjoy nice things. It means you buy them from abundance, not emptiness. There's a story about a young man who got his first big paycheck and immediately bought a luxury watch. When his mentor asked why, he said, "I wanted to feel like I made it." The mentor smiled and replied, "You could have become the kind of man who earns that watch 10 times over. Instead, you bought the feeling for one afternoon." There's nothing wrong with wanting nice things, but when your worth depends on them, they own you. Wealth isn't about what you can buy, it's about what you can walk away from. That's true power. 5. The control illusion control feels safe. We plan, predict, and overthink, believing that if we just manage every detail, we can avoid failure. But life doesn't work like that. No matter how carefully you plan, uncertainty always wins in the end. People stuck in this trap avoid risk so fiercely that they also avoid opportunity. They keep their money in savings accounts that lose value to inflation. They never launch the business idea. They never ask for the raise. They live small, not because they want to, but because they're afraid to lose control. But here's the truth: growth happens in chaos. Progress begins the moment you accept you can't control everything and decide to act anyway. There's a story of a woman who waited 10 years to start her company. She kept saying, "I just need to figure out the perfect plan." When she finally started, she realized something. The market had changed completely. Her plan didn't matter anymore, but her ability to adapt did. The lesson? Control is an illusion. Resilience is the real power. Learn to move with uncertainty, not against it. You don't have to know what's next. You just have to stay willing to face it. That's the mindset shift that separates stagnation from success. When you step back, you can see the bigger picture. Scarcity, someday, identity, consumption, control. They're not just financial traps. They're psychological prisons. Each one keeps you reacting instead of creating, defending instead of designing. But once you see them, they lose their power. Awareness turns invisible barriers into visible choices. You don't have to escape all of them overnight. Start with one. Catch yourself when you say, "I can't afford it." Ask instead, "How could I make it possible?" Shift one belief, one reaction, one habit, and the entire direction of your life begins to change. Because wealth isn't just money, it's freedom. The freedom to choose your path without fear. And that starts in your mind long before it shows up in your bank account. If any part of this felt uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is the first spark of awareness. It's your mind showing you where it's been hiding your potential. You don't have to hustle harder or pretend to be someone you're not. You just have to notice the traps and stop walking into them. Because the truth is, most people aren't born poor. They're trained to think poor, and thinking can be retrained. So, start there. Reclaim your thoughts, rewrite your story, and let your mind become the richest thing you own. Think about that for a moment.